The Brewhouse was created to capture and share with you the long history of the Genesee Brewery, but the brewery itself isn't half as interesting as the beer and the people who make it. Visit GeneseeBrewhouse.com.
Welcome to the Rochester Press Box. I'm Tariq Spence filling in for Bill Pucko at Genesee Brewhouse, of course, a sponsor for the Rochester Press Box. Joined by, as always, Pat Duffy. Good to see you. What is up with this Timberwolf? What is this?
The Starbury, Stephon Marbury. The greatest unanswered NBA question of all time is if Starbury was willing to play Robin to Garnett's Batman, what the Timberwolves could have been in the mid to late 90s.
The Timberwolves haven't been anything.
That's why, because Marbury decided I wanted to be my own Batman.
One of the last times I actually cared about the NBA was when the Timberwolves were competitive, because I'm from Minnesota. Yeah.
There you go. What a hero's welcome to for D'Angelo Russell. I thought that was amazing, the fact that Karl Anthony Towns met him at the airport. Nate Rowan here, of course, the Rochester Red Wings. Hello.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Looking forward to. Baseball is where we have to start, unfortunately. We've got a couple different levels. Number one, scandal. We've got the cheating scandal. We seem to have all the information we need to know now. Maybe more will be leaking out later. The latest has been players who said that they felt they couldn't do anything because the veterans in the locker room for the Houston Astros were kind of saying, well, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm a rookie. How do you feel about now these scandals, and where does baseball go from here?
Well, it's concerning because they didn't do their due diligence with the investigation in the first place, because it came out after the investigation was supposedly complete by the commissioner's office that this allegedly began in 2016 because an intern developed some sort of spreadsheet called it was a code breaker, basically, was the name of the whole thing. So, that's concerning for me because either one, the commissioner's office knew about it and decided not to report on that, or two, they were incompetent in their investigation. And either way, I don't think that reflects good on the commissioner's office. The thing about the players is to say that, well, one or two guys were doing something illegal, basically, and that there was nothing that they could do. That to me seems a little bit far-fetched.
They broke some monitors, they had some meetings, things were said, but things kept going.
All right, so listen, you guys are innocent guys, right? You're going to believe what they're going to feed you, that's fine. And I can respect that about you guys. You guys don't really believe the story that MLB doesn't want you to know, right? The league story. You're going to tell me Carlos Beltran is being painted as the ringleader of all of this. Isn't it convenient for Major League Baseball that he was retiring and never managed a game as a manager, right? Wouldn't it be I don't know, good for Major League Baseball if they leaked a story that the guy that will have nothing to do with baseball from this point on is the one that masterminded the whole thing? Come on, this is all on purpose. This has all been ridiculous. I told you guys last week about my conspiracy theory with Mookie Betts heading out to Los Angeles, and it's all part of some undercover conspiracy. I don't believe any of it. I think that Major League Baseball is doing everything they can PR-wise to try and spin this as a single rogue player bullying into other players so you don't pull back the curtain and see even more that lies underneath it.
Well, I think there is more there, but the question is now, how do we move forward? You have the baseball season just about to start, spring training. Some players are now apologizing and addressing this issue. You still have to play baseball. The question is now, what are you going to do? You're not taking championships away, right, Nate?
Right. Well, and that, again, the Houston Astros this season, really, aside from losing their general manager and their field manager, really don't get penalized for this whole incident. And the guys who directly benefited from it, Carlos Correa, Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, the three biggest benefiters of this whole scandal, they can play this season without any penalty. They don't have to miss the postseason. There's no threat of anything further happening to the players because, well, they cooperated with the commissioner's office. And like you said, they put this basically all on Carlos Beltran. There's not one guy that you could say completely masterminded this whole thing, and because of him, these other players were scared to not participate. That seems ridiculous.
And no one wants to snitch anymore. We all know that that's one of the things in sports. We kind of keep it in the locker room until it hurts me.
Well, that's what's so funny about this whole thing, right? Is fans are freaking out. How do we not know this earlier? And then those same people are saying, well, why is Fires out there snitching on what happened in the background? Well, pick a side. The funniest thing so far, I think, about this entire scandal is one of the first player to apologize comes out and had to go to one of his teammates in private and apologize for everything that happened. That's what we're forgetting here, is that these guys are friends. They're now joining new teammates. You have guys that lost out on career money, lost out on chances at championships, and you're directly responsible for that. And hey, now we're in the same jersey. Let's go have dinner together.
Yeah, and you have Mike Bolsinger, who's now suing the Astros because he never pitched in the big leagues after that point. Now, he went to Japan and made some money, so I'm not sure if that has any validity to it, but he never pitched in the big leagues after that, and he may never pitch in the big leagues again. However, his career numbers suggest that one outing was not the reason that he's no longer a major league
close
pitcher.
to a 7 ERA, and he's going to file a lawsuit. I love it, but what are you doing, bro?
Yeah,
Come on.
He was hurt the most clearly in this whole situation.
And the people in baseball or the fans that are saying, well, isn't this a wider spread thing? If players are as vocal as they've been about this whole scandal, there's no way that this is widespread because they're not going to put their necks on the line if they know their team was doing something similar or as equally bad as what's come out about the Astros.
Payback can be tough. Coming up next, we'll talk more about the Buffalo Bills being brought to you by Genesee Brewhouse. You're watching the Rochester Press Box.
The Press Box is brought to you in part by Bay & Goodman Pizza, a local Rochester favorite. Corner of North Winton and Browncroft, Bay & Goodman Pizza.
Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box, being presented by Genesee Brewhouse. Tariq Spence in here with you. All right, Pat Duffy, let's go. Buffalo Bills. Last week, you guys talked a bit about the draft, the potential wide receivers. Now you've got Greg Olsen coming in. He'll view other teams. Do you want Greg Olsen as a tight end on your team? That doesn't sound too convincing.
Maybe. All right, here's the thing. Tyler Kroft was a massive disappointment, and he's got to go. You don't need the cap space, but you shouldn't pay him. I mean, his touchdown catch does clinch you a playoff spot, which is great. That should be your one memory moment as a Bill. Do you want Olsen? On one hand, you have a guy that, if I'm not mistaken, had more catches and yardage than the 3 Bills tight ends that played last year combined, despite the fact that he missed a couple of games. But on the other hand, I mean, he's getting up there. He does have injury issues. The Bills have been very good about keeping players on the field with the new facilities that they've built. But do I want to risk that? And on top of it, is Olsen the kind of tight end that can succeed with Josh Allen throwing to him, right? I really like Dawson Knox, and my concern would be that bringing in a guy like Olsen would stunt the growth of a guy like that, not help him move along a little bit. If it were me, if he's affordable, fine, but do I want to spend the money on a vet that might be injury-prone and taking targets away from a budding young tight end?
Which you do have a young receiving core, but tight end position right now would be a great set for the Buffalo Bills, who, let's just say, needed a couple more weapons last year.
Yeah, I think the 2 big tight end signings that they've made the last couple of times around have been disappointing. You know, Charles Clay clearly didn't live up to what he signed for, and then Tyler Kroft was basically hurt. So, you know, from the tight end position, the 2 teams that played in the Super Bowl, Greg Kittle for the 49ers and Travis Kelce of the Chiefs, are arguably, if not the 2 best tight ends in football. If you can work your offense around the tight end, it opens up everything else around it. Kittle obviously is a physical specimen. He's great in run blocking. He can catch the ball. Kelce is more of a receiving threat, but he allows that offense to stretch the field because they're so focused on him. If you can integrate a tight end into your system, I'm just not sure that Greg Olsen is that guy. And there's other younger options out there. Austin Hooper with the Falcons is a free agent. Hunter Henry from the Chargers is a free agent. I'm not sure if the tight end is necessarily where they're focused, but if they're going to go after tight end, I almost would rather see them go after a younger option.
Well, the problem with Hooper and Henry is you're going to pay out the nose to go get those guys. I mean, yes, of those 3 options, it seems like Olsen's going to be the most affordable. The problem, again, though, with signing Olsen is you're going to get a season, maybe 2 out of him. So all you're doing is kicking the can down the road for another year. I mean, but then again, if you go draft a young tight end, now you have a guy that's been in the league for 1 year that had his issues a little bit during the season, grooming that other guy. I don't know.
Let me present this. Let me take this away. Wide receiver, plenty of them to go through. Mm-hmm. So you can pick a wide receiver, first round, second round, third round, whatever one's possible. What are you looking for? Is it offensive line help? Are you looking for a running back?
So I don't think Gore's back. Singletary's great. I don't want to take a running back in the first round. I saw that in a mock the other day, and we talked about it last week, and it really, really frustrated me. I don't want to go receiver first round either because it's a very deep, big wide receiver draft, and it doesn't seem like something Bean would do. Right now, it seems to me that your safest bet is either a D lineman or a pass rusher off the edge, right? You're going to need one of those things. You can get it cheaper by letting either a Jordan Phillips or Shaq Lawson walk by filling one of those spots. And when it comes to D-line, you've got Harrison Phillips, who was having a very promising first couple of games, blows his knee out. Give me a pass rusher, D lineman over all the rest of that stuff.
Improving an already great defense. Coming up, like it or not, next here on Rochester Press Box, being presented by Genesee Brewhouse.
Here's the Press Box trivia question, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Here's the Press Box trivia answer, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box, being brought to you by Genesee Brewhouse. Like it or not, all right, Pat Duffy, fans demanding better. Sabres had their protests. Fans are not happy about where they are. The Knicks are chanting. The fans are chanting in Madison Square Garden to Dolan to sell the team, and the Mets had a buyer, and then they lost the buyer, and they're pulling their hair out.
There's a very simple way to affect change for the sports franchise that you love. And you actually said the reason why it's not succeeding in your description. Fans inside the Garden were chanting for Dolan to sell the team. Yeah, every one of those people chanting, put money in his pocket that night, right? The Knicks, Dolan can hold on to him and do nothing for as long as he wants. In fact, he can tank them on purpose if he wants to, which it kind of seems like he's been doing, because he's going to continue to make money. Like that Sabres protest the other day. Listen, I'm a diehard Sabres fan. I feel the frustrations. But when you have 12 people standing outside of the French Connection statue, and one of them is holding a bag with stuff he just bought from the Sabres store, you're not really sending your message all the way through. If you want to affect change, stop giving these teams your money until they have to listen to you and do what you say.
It's impossible, though. I mean, they're fans. They want to see their team. Sabres have a high number of people that watch the games. They want to go to the games. They want to wear the gear. They want to be a part of something that's a winning franchise. You guys aren't winning.
Look, I get it. But if you want sacrifice from the people that are running the team, which, listen, Dolan selling it would be a sacrifice. The Sabres refixing everything again would be a sacrifice. You need to sacrifice yourself. Listen, I don't have the self-control to do what I am saying to do. But that's how it happens. It's the only way it changes.
All right. Like it or not, Major League Baseball has made a great announcement of changing the playoffs with a bye for the best team. Second team would pick their opponent.
Well, conveniently, it comes out as people are still talking about the Astros scandal. So from a PR perspective, that seems like it was leaked info intentionally.
Brilliant.
But when you expand the playoff system, part of what makes baseball intriguing and interesting is that over 162 games, you have your chance, your opportunity to prove that you belong in the playoffs. So the 5 teams from each league currently making it, in my opinion, is plenty. When you expand it to 7 in each league, 85 wins would have made it in the National League last year. 84 would have made it in the American League based on this format. Do we really want teams that close to 500 making the playoffs? In other sports, when you only play 82 games, I totally understand that sometimes if you have a star out for a week or two, that can negatively impact your ability to make the playoffs. But what makes baseball playoffs interesting is that you have to earn your way to get into the playoffs. If they add more teams, I feel like you're just rewarding mediocrity.
Why do you hate awesome, Nate? Why do you hate this idea for the baseball playoffs? Is the greatest idea I've ever heard, because not only do you have 2 more teams going in, which is going to be huge for revenue for Major League Baseball. Listen, if baseball has a problem right now, it's becoming a regional instead of a national sport, right? You want to capitalize on that? You have now smaller markets that are all going to be involved leading up to the playoff race that actually have a chance instead of being out of it in mid-July to early August. Then the fact that you get to pick the team that you play in the playoffs, I think every league should do this. Like, I am subscribed 100%. I have not been a diehard baseball fan for a very long time, but I'll tell you this. The first time they had this selection show where, this year it would have been the Yankees being able to determine who they pick. Do they pick the Red Sox, who are the worst team in the league? Do you want to deal with that kind of baggage from the rivalry that comes with it in the first round of the playoffs? Are you going to look at another team, their general manager, their coach, and say, we think you're worse, and the bad blood and the rivalries that would develop? I got my hair standing up right now. I want to do jumping jacks. Why are we not doing this thing right now? Let's do it right now.
The best part about the proposal is that in baseball, one game can go any number of directions. Adding a series to at least the wild card aspect of it is much more beneficial, because teams don't go all in so that they can maybe play one additional game in the postseason and then bow out and have no chance.
The great thing about baseball is 3-game series. It's always been that way, regular season. I love that. Get rid of the one elimination game. I love that idea. Keep the 3-game series in a hometown. You could still lose the first game, win the next 2, and go on to the next round.
And the playoffs end up being scattered out because they're trying to avoid the NFL, which I don't blame them, obviously. But baseball is played consecutive days. So if you play this 3-game series, you can play it 3 days in a row, and that's must-watch TV, because if you lose the first game, you're in big trouble. You obviously get to a game 3 where win or go home, and that's where baseball ratings really jump up.
Gotta love that. This segment of the Rochester Press Box being brought to you by Genesee Brew House. Coming up next, Unfinished Business.
And now here's this week's MVP Experience Stat of the Week, brought to you by Sport Clips, where it's good to be a guy. No appointment ever needed.
And now to Eichel. He floated one.
When Girl Scout ingenuity meets Dunkin' Coffee, you get a cup of can-do. Girl Scout cookie-inspired flavors are at Dunkin'. Try Thin Mints and Coconut Caramel today. And get a medium latte or cappuccino for $2 from 2 to 6 p.m. America runs on Dunkin'.
Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box. This segment being brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. All right, Unfinished Business. Pat Duffy, fire away.
Tariq touched on it a second ago. The Buffalo Sabres, teams like the Knicks, teams like the Mets, teams that are just hopelessly losing every year. And it's easy to look at those teams and blame the management. In fact, I would look at the Knicks and say that Dolan is the reason why they continue to flub everything up. Oh, cut myself. And stuff with the Mets as well. But the Sabres are a unique case. The Pegula family has found success with the Buffalo Bills, right? They've worked at it. They hired the right people, and everything seems to be turning around. Buffalo Sabres, not so much, but it's not for lack of trying and doing things differently. In fact, they've done everything they can. They've spent massive money on players and bringing coaches in. They've brought in legends that used to play for the Sabres, guys that had success with Stanley Cups, Dan Bilesma before Phil Housley, and then an unknown guy who was willing to try something new in Ralph Kruger, and none of it has worked. Every possible thing they could try, player, coach, general manager-wise, they've done it. And they've had no success. How this is possible, I don't know. But to yell at the Pegulas on a weekly basis, and don't get me wrong, I feel your frustration, I do. I don't know how warranted it is. They have no hockey experience, just like most folks that own these sports teams have no experience in this game prior. You're only as good as the people that you listen to. Be upset for them taking advice from people that they shouldn't have. But for loving this team, or lack thereof, I don't think that's a problem.
Major League Baseball has a problem with its content. It's hard to consume. There's only one place to go. You have to go to the team accounts, you have to go to Major League Baseball accounts, or you have to go to their official websites. The one thing that baseball did this offseason, like it or not, is that they were in the news every month. When normally it's football season, it's NBA season, and people are not paying attention to baseball. The scandal broke out in mid-November. The free agent frenzy happened in December. And then all this, the firings of the manager for Houston and Boston came out, and the Mets came out in January, and now it's spring training. People talked about baseball all through the offseason. You want to know how to grow the game? It's not some gimmicky playoff system. Allow people to consume your content, let people share it, and don't take it down for copyright issues. That's number one. Number two, blackout restrictions. Get rid of them. There's parts of the country that have multiple Major League Baseball teams blacked out because you're in their TV market. And at the end of the day, these playoff systems that they're proposing have one thing in mind. It's more revenue for Major League Baseball because the TV deals will be huge. So if you want people to care about baseball and you want to grow the game, people are cutting their cable subscriptions. Let people stream the games no matter where they live and let them share content. At the end of the day, that type of content is marketing that you cannot duplicate. And if the fans are going to do it for you, let them do it.
I'll wrap up with one thing. A lot of things are going on in the world of sports that involve betting. So one of the issues that I have is the NBA recently apologized for a goaltending call for the Portland Trailblazers. Damian Lillard was upset about it. The announcer that called the game was upset about it. It was clearly goaltending and affected the end of the game. If you want people to bet on sports like football or basketball or baseball, you've got to get the calls right. A number of people will take their money other places to gamble, but they've got to have the integrity of the game taken care of, that the game is actually refereed the way it's supposed to be refereed. If it's called that it is not accurate, they're not going to be able to trust your product. You want to control the integrity of the game, but you also want to make sure that people who put their money on the line get the actual final score right. And if you don't, maybe you should cover their bet. Nate, opening day for the Red Wings coming up.
April 9th, Thursday, April 9th. Get your tickets, redwingsbaseball.com.
As always, man, you bring a lot of passion.
Hey, thanks, Tariq.
Are you feeling okay?
No.
Hey,
Okay.
to your point, with the KU K-State debacle a couple weeks ago, they had to put players back on the court because there was time left because they need to complete the games for the purpose of bettors. We can do that, but we can't get the calls right. I'm with you.
Or pay the players. And that's the Rochester Press Box for this week, being brought to you by Dunkin'. America runs on Dunkin'. Have a great day, everybody.